Welcome to Grace. I'm so glad you guys are here, whether you're in person or online. Thanks for spending some time with us today. We love that you're here. If you are new-ish or haven't been here for, very long, my name is Leslie. I'm on staff here. Most of the time I'm back with the kids, the kindergarten through fifth graders, and I kind of oversee the little ones as well. And as always, it's always a privilege for me to be in here with you to spend a few minutes with the big kids. I was going to say adults, but I think big kids suits you better today. We're going to jump right in this morning, and we're going to talk about this idea of from certainty to curiosity. It is something that is very personal to me. It is something that I am going through currently. It's the address where I live right now. So many things in my life that I have been very certain of. I am now more curious about, right? Does anybody know anything like kind of what I'm talking about? Maybe life is teaching us some hard lessons, right? Maybe we're going through things that we didn't ask for, we didn't see coming, right? And then it raises questions, so many questions that we never thought we'd ask or intended to ask. And that's kind of where I am in life right now. I'm moving from a place of certainty to curiosity. And so that's what we're going to talk about. When we're talking about moving from certainty to curiosity, the kind of certainty that I'm talking about, just so we kind of all understand, is I'm talking about a reliability on something that is definitely true, right? Absolutely true. And we're relying on that in our lives on a day in, day out basis. And that either the pursuit of that certainty or the attainment of it, right? It has some rewards and it has some risks that are real. Certainty's rewards are things like rightness. How many of you guys like being right? Right? We like it, don't we? Certainty has a reward. I'm right. It's definitely true, right? There's a safety and a stability there, isn't there? You know where your feet are on the ground when you're certain about something. And like the rising of the sun and the setting of the same, there's a comfort in certainty. How many of you have ever gone to bed at night worried and troubled or crying or whatever, and you know at least when you wake up in the morning, at least you're pretty sure, the sun is going to rise, right? There's comfort there. Certainty isn't bad. It's not a bad thing, but it does have a downside, especially when we're talking about things that maybe are a little bit harder to know or harder to understand. Things like people, things like God. Certainty can cause us some trouble. People are crazy, right? You never know what they're thinking or feeling. You don't know what they're going to say or do. Like they surprise us all the time, either with good things or with bad things, right? We are crazy. We surprise ourselves sometimes. We hear things coming out of our mouth and we're like, what? Did I just say that for reals? And God, it's hard to be certain about God because he's big. Did you know? He's really big. Up, down, in, out, forward, backward, in time, out of time. Like he's huge. And he's really hard for us to be absolutely, definitely, 100%. I got it. I know him. It's hard for us to be certain like that about him. We don't know everything about him, do we? I don't know. I don't. We believe in God, don't we? And we believe in people. We have faith in them, don't we? We trust God. There's a handful of people we trust, but we're not always certain. And where God and people are concerned, what I'm learning what I'm learning is that certainty has some risks that we ought to consider. Certainty, if we're not careful, has a way of leading us to become people who are judgmental and arrogant and closed-minded, right? Do you know those people? I've bumped into a few. I've been that myself. As a know-it-all, it's really easy to become defensive, isolated, and stagnant. Certainty has its risks. When you know, there's no reason to learn because you know. If you're a know-it-all, there's no need to trust. Why do you need to trust? You know. And it can become really easy for us to become arrogant and isolated. You can't be, think about this, you can't be certain in the way that we're talking about it. I'm not talking about confidence here. Confidence is a different thing. Confidence has a level of trust about it. It's a pretty sure and I trust. Trust is earned. I trust my husband. I trust the staff here at Grace. We've been through stuff together. I trust them. I don't know everything. At some point, somebody's going to probably hurt me somewhere, but I trust them. Right? Certainty, you can't be certain and curious at the same time. Curiosity, on the other hand, the idea that there may be something more to learn, maybe just a smidge. Maybe I don't know everything. Maybe there's more out there. Curiosity, that curiosity that not 100% knowing, but a desire to learn, that's a curiosity, right? Curiosity works really well with faith and trust and belief. In relationships, wouldn't you say it's important to be curious? Like, that's what keeps things going. It keeps them from becoming stagnant and from drifting apart. If I never tried to figure out, I don't know everything that Alan's thinking or feeling or about to say. Just saying, I don't. But I can be curious. I can try to find out. I can try to see. And that's what keeps the relationship from going stagnant or from us drifting apart. And so it is with God. There's a tension there between not knowing everything and trusting. And it's good. Like certainty, curiosity has its risks and rewards as well. Curiosity's risks, you ready? Curiosity risks wrongness. None of us wants to be wrong, do we? Right? We don't want to be wrong. If we admit that we don't know everything, we might be wrong. One of the risks of curiosity is the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of the unknown, not the actual unknown. Because the unknown it's a 50-50. It's going to be awesome or awful. Maybe a little bit somewhere in between, but it's one or the other, right? It's the fear about not knowing. That's the risk of curiosity. Did you guys hear that? That guy just yelled. They're lifting some big weights over there. Sorry, it was so distracting. I hope he's okay. Wow. So curiosity, risks, wrongness, fear of the unknown. Also, there's a risk of an unraveling of everything you've given your life for, everything you thought, everything you worked so hard for. There's a fear in curiosity that you're going to lose it all, right? It's like pulling on that one string on the sweater. The whole thing falls apart, right? There's a risk of an unraveling, and all of that causes great discomfort. Curiosity can lead us to discomfort. But just as Curious George helped the man with the yellow hat, Curiosity's rewards have a way of leading us to become people who are engaged, humble. Humble's such a big one. Humble. I don't know it all. Humble. Open-minded. And as a learner, instead of being defensive and isolated, in curiosity, we get to become inquisitive and accessible. And we're still growing. We're not stagnant if we're curious. Moving from certainty to curiosity, especially in our relationships, looks a lot like moving from needing to be right to accepting that there may be more. It's a move from defending everything you think you know to recognizing you don't know everything. And it's a move from always looking for answers. It's a move from looking for answers to finding purpose in the question. That, like I said, is where I'm living right now. So many questions, and it's really easy to get lost in questions, but there is a purpose in the questions. And so before I go any further, I want to apologize. I'm going to say I'm sorry right here, right now. I apologize. I really do. If you came here this morning hoping I would give you answers, or whoever was up here would give you answers about life's questions, the things that you're facing, I'm sorry. If you came hoping to hear something that undergirded and supported everything you believe, I'm sorry. I'm probably not going to give that to you. I can't give it to you. And you know what? It's okay, because you guys are smart. You know a lot already, and you've got this. But what I am going to give you, is some advice. I'm going to give you some advice. Whether you became a Christian 60 years ago at VBS, in your neighbor's backyard, whether this is your first time here, my advice is the same. And my advice is be curious. Whether, like I said, whether you've known God forever or just recently, or maybe you don't know him at all yet. Maybe you're trying to figure out if he's somebody you can trust. Be curious. I believe, curiosity's rewards are worth the risks. And I offer this advice with good news in mind. The good news, as I see it, as I understand it, as I believe it, the good news is that God is love. The good news is that nothing can separate us from him. Your questions, your curiosity, your tried out possibilities, they're not going to stress God out. Lots of times we talk about him as like a good father, don't we? We talk about God as a good father. Like we talk about that all the time. God's a good father. God is such a good father that he's way better than we could ever hope to have or we could ever hope to be. He's a better parent than we ever have experienced or ever will be. He's not going to get stressed out if you ask him questions. He's not. In our household, our kids fight with us on the regular. They tell us that we don't know much. They question us all the time. Sometimes we even yell at each other. Well, they yell at us. We never yell at them. No, I'm just kidding. And we're okay. And we're okay. And we're not even anywhere near as good as God is, right? He can handle it. So, with that in mind, with that good news in mind, God is love. Nothing can separate us from him. I'm going to do something that you may or may not like. I'm really sorry if you don't like it. Again, I'm apologizing again. I'm really sorry you don't like it, but we're going to do it anyway. So I am going to give you a 5-question pop quiz. Okay? It's just true or false. It's not multiple choice. It's not essay or anything like that, but 5 questions, true or false. If you're really brave, there's pens in your seat pockets. Grab a piece of paper, write down true or false on those papers for these 5 questions. If you're not, it's okay. You can just get it in your mind, and that's fine. But answer the questions true or false. 5 questions. You guys ready? Because this is going to show you what I'm talking about. These are questions, these next 5 questions are things that I ask myself, or I have wrestled with, or I think about all the time. So, true or false? You guys ready? For those of you who have been in church, this should be easy peasy. Easy peasy, not a problem. For those of you who aren't necessarily churched, don't worry, just guess, write it down. There's not going to be any judgment, I promise. Okay, here we go. True or false, number 1. The creation story in the Bible tells us that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days and then rested on the 7th. True or false? You don't have to say it out loud if you don't want, but great, you guys said it out loud. Should we have a little Jeopardy music, Okay, you guys got your answer? True or false? So, if you answered true, you know that you can back that up with Genesis 1, right? In the beginning, and then all the things happened. Things like the separating of things, right? Separating light from dark, water from above, from the water below, separating land and sea. And then there was all the creating of things, right? There was the creating of I'm going to make sure I get the order right. Vegetation, lights in the sky, the sun, moon, and stars. And then water creatures, and then finally land creatures, right? And then on the 7th day, God rested. You can back up your true answer with Genesis 1. The thing is, if you answered false, you are right too. And you can back that up with Genesis 2, right? Genesis 2:4 begins with this. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created. Did you guys know that? Did you know there was a second creation story in there? Yeah. So in this story, there is no mention of days. There's no mention of separating things. And the order in which things were created is completely whacked. It's completely different than the first one. You guys remember the first one? The creating of things was vegetation, lights, water animals, land animals, including humans. In Genesis 2, the order is man, plants, beasts, and then women. Completely different. So you were right, whether you answered true or whether you answered false. This is curious. I don't know about you, it's curious to me. Let's move on. True or false? In the Noah story, in the story about Noah and the ark, God tells Noah to bring 2 animals, a male and a female, of every living animal on board the ship. True or false? True or false? You're a little more hesitant to answer out loud this time. It's okay. It's okay. I promise you, no judgment. Okay, if you said true, Genesis 6 says this. God told Noah to bring 2 of every living creature into the ark, male and female, to keep them alive. 2 of every bird and animal and crawling creature. It's the quintessential little kid's Bible picture of the animals going up the plank onto the ark. 2 of each kind, right? Guess what? If you answered false, you are right too. Did you know that there's a second Noah story that gives us different details? Not in Genesis 6. You got to go all the way to Genesis 7 for that one. Genesis 7 says this. God tells Noah to go into the ark and take seven pairs of every clean animal, 1 pair of every unclean animal, and 7 pairs of every bird into the ark to keep them alive. Not the same story. 7 pairs of birds is very different than 1 pair of bird. 1 pair of birds, you got them in their little corner. 7 pairs of every bird, that's a lot of birds. In the ark. That makes me curious. I don't know how that happened. It's a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher. I'm curious about it. The logistics of all of that makes me go, And they were, as I teach the kids, they were on there for a year. A year. That's a lot of poop. I'm just saying. I don't get it. Right? See, that's what you get for being a kids pastor. You got to throw in that stuff every now and then. But you know what I'm more curious about? I got to be honest. I'm more curious. I'm less curious about the logistics than I'm more curious about why Moses, who wrote those first 5 books of the Bible, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, or the Pentateuch, or the Torah, right, in the Hebrew Bible. I'm curious as to why he would tell 2 different stories about the same event twice. Maybe he could get away with it once, but he did it twice, and actually there's more times, but we're not going to get into those. Twice. 2 different stories about the same event. If you were to read a history book or a memoir, and the author wrote out 2 different stories or 2 different descriptions, accounts of the same story, like you'd be like, nah, something's going on here, right? You'd want to know what's going on. So let me ask you this, true or false? Since we're talking about Moses, true or false? Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. True or false? Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, Torah, Pentateuch, and our Bible, our Old Testament. True or false? Yes! Yes! She's curious. No one answered true or false on that one. Just curious. But let me tell you, if you had answered true, there's some Bible verses that can back that up. Exodus 24:4 and Deuteronomy 31:24, both say that Moses carefully wrote down all the Lord's instructions and the words of the law in a book to the very end. Okay? And based on those verses, and maybe there's others, those are just the only 2 I could find. Based on those verses, both the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition have always said that Moses wrote those first 5. Right? I have a question for you. Because to me, false, there's a chance that the answer is false too. I don't know. There's a chance. And let me show you what I mean. Deuteronomy 34:5 says this. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, and God buried him in the valley. Moses didn't write that part. Moses didn't write that part of Deuteronomy. He just didn't. He was dead. He was buried. Somebody else wrote it. Somebody else added that in. And I get it. It probably doesn't affect you guys in your daily lives like it does me. I have to teach this stuff to your kids and let it tell them about God, right? It probably doesn't matter to you that most biblical scholars these days don't hold to the same tradition that we have in our Christian and Jewish heritage. They don't anymore, and there's lots of reasons why. It probably doesn't matter to you, but it does to me. It's something I think about all the time. Because if Moses didn't, I thought I knew the author. I was pretty certain about who the author was, and knowing who the author is informs me about some of what's being said and recorded. I don't know anymore. I'm curious. Who wrote it? Why? What difference does it make in the story? When was it written? Okay, here's my brain about my curiosities about Moses writing those first 5 books. So you know how when Moses was up on Mount Sinai and God gives him the 10 Commandments and it's written down on these 2 tablets, right? It's written down on 2 tablets. What in the world did Moses' book look like that he wrote down all of those things on? I mean, if it was a stone tablet for 5 commandments and another one for the other 5. Like, I don't know if he wrote a book. He didn't have a computer or paper. That didn't come around for a couple hundred years. I don't know, lots of hundreds of years. It's curious to me. And again, part of the reason it's curious to me is because I have to teach this stuff. I don't have to. I choose to teach this stuff to your kids to help them know God. So these are questions that I have. Okay, you guys ready for a New Testament one? Ready for New Testament? Easy peasy. How many of you guys were here on Christmas Eve? Are you guys here on Christmas Eve? You will get this one right. I promise, if you were listening. If you listen to Matt on Christmas Eve, you'll get this one right. So easy. Okay, here we go. King Herod and the innkeeper were both villains in the Jesus birthday story. True or false? Okay, you were a little braver on that one. You must have come to Christmas Eve. True. Matthew 2:16 tells us about Herod and the atrocities and why he was the villain. But really, the right answer in this, because it's not a partially right answer doesn't work here, there was no innkeeper. There was not in Matthew, not in Luke, which are the only 2 books that talk about Jesus' birth. Neither one include the innkeeper as a character in that story. And my point in bringing that up today, other than to give you an easy answer, the point is, if you ever thought there was an innkeeper, it should make you curious. Why did you think that? Why did you think there was one? You didn't read it. Why did you think it? And the point of that question is, is there a small possibility that there are other things that you think are in there that aren't? I have just gone from certainty into the depths of curiosity. What is it that I think the Bible says that it just doesn't? It's worth a thought, right? Okay, last one. This is fun because for those of you who have kids in Grace Kids today, they're hearing this story today. And it was actually in preparation for that I saw this that we're about to do. And it's kind of fun that they're back there today. You guys can talk to them about it. Okay, so in the New Testament, there's a story about the feeding of the 5,000 plus, right? In that story, it tells us that a little boy has 5 barley loaves, 2 fish, and that Jesus takes and then uses all the loaves and the fish to feed all those hungry people. True or false? True or false? You guys got it? Think you know the answer? You guys have heard the story before? Sounds kind of familiar the way I said it? It is. It's true. That is the story from John 6. Kind of reads almost exactly like that. I wasn't trying to trick you with the barley loaves or anything. Like, that's it. But what I learned in preparing for the kids today, the word translated boy there, okay, the little boy that came and brought his lunch and shared it with everybody, is actually gender neutral. It can be boy or lad. It can also be child. Now, that is a big deal to me, because do you know how hard it is to find stories in the Bible that are relative to your elementary school aged girls? They're practically non-existent, right? There's any stories about women it's kind of, there's not as much of them. There's not as many of them. And the ones that are in there, tell me if this resonates. They're either about a really bad sinner, right? Or a saint. You either have Jezebel or you have Queen Esther. You either have the woman at the well or the woman caught in adultery, which those girls don't even get names, right? You either have them or you have the Virgin Mary. Most of the stories in the Bible about women, girls, they're either really bad or they're really good, and they're not relatable at all. There was a story about a dead girl, but like Jesus rose her from the dead. That's about as close as we get. And that story's not really even about her. It's about her dad and Jesus, right? So this really matters to me. I was so excited to see that maybe, it could be. Now, every translation I looked at translated it boy. Even though every concordance, every Bible dictionary I looked at it, all of them said it could be translated boy, it's in there, it's legit, or child. This story is exciting to me because I can bring the girls into it. We can lean in, even past the miracle, and learn something about what we can do, about how we can live. And it's about sharing your lunch, this story is. Kids share their lunches with each other all the time. And it's something we can learn from, right? It's something we can learn about. Like, what would the world be like if all of us put ourselves into that story and decided to share our lunch with people who are hungry? That's a pretty good story right there. Now, I heard it fly across the room. Somebody just said, she's a socialist. No, I'm just curious. I'm curious. What would it be like? What would it be like if our kids figured out they could just share their lunch, and that's like doing something cool? And it raises a question. Why did every single translation use boy? Maybe that was the right choice. I don't know. Maybe there was a deep, dark agenda to cut women. I don't know. But whatever, it makes me curious. And it makes me excited and open-minded to be able to invite your girls into the story. We don't have a Peter who's just a bumbling idiot, right? Doing the best he can. We don't have a Thomas who just doubts and gets on with it. We, as in women, we don't have those. Somehow, this little girl being added into this story, this child being added into this story, brings me such joy. All right, how'd you guys do on the quiz? Did you get them all right? Kinda. There's only one you could really get wrong. And even that would have been partly right. Better yet, how are you doing? How are you doing? Do you find that what I'm talking about here makes you a little uncomfortable? Is it messing with some of the things you were maybe certain about? Or are you like sweet little Alice? And it's curiouser and curiouser, and you're excited about the wonderland that might be out there? Just in case I haven't made my point, I've got two quick Bible verses to read to you. The first one is Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. It'll let you down. That part's not in the Bible, that's me. It'll let you down. 1 Corinthians 13:8 and 9 says this: as for knowledge, it will come to an end, for we only know in part. Isn't that right? About God and people, we only know in part. And I'll admit that at the beginning of this message, I talked about moving from certainty to curiosity regarding God and people. And then I spent a whole bunch of time raising questions about the Bible. I know that wasn't quite fair, but I did it on purpose. Because so often, what we think, what we're certain of about God comes from the Bible, right? The Bible informs us about God. Absolutely. The Bible informs us about God. But the Bible is not God. My relationship is with God. I love the Bible. I read it. I take it with me on trips. Actually, I don't take much anymore. I have a computer or your phone, right? But back in the day, I carried it with me wherever I went. I was so certain I knew what God wanted. I was so certain I knew who he was and what he would do. And then life happened. It's not bad to have questions, you guys. It's not. Curiosity about God is not bad. He can handle it, right? And remember, the tension between trust and curiosity is what makes our relationships stronger and more vibrant. Questions like, is God love? Is he good? How good is he? How big is his love? If God came to seek and to save the lost, will he? Will he succeed? Can God fail? Good questions that I'm not going to answer for you. I'm so sorry. Not even or especially the hard questions. How does a God who is love allow and sometimes even invite? It looks like he commands or seemingly inflicts hardship and pain on people. How is that connected to my God who is love? Some of you guys are going through some hard stuff out there. I know it. It's hard sometimes to see God in that and how he let that happen. These are really good questions to ask him about. Again, he can handle it. And again, I'm not going to give you any answers today. I've apologized for that already a couple of times. But what I can give you today is empathy. If you have questions in your life, man, I get it. I'm so right there with you. If you're having a hard time, and if these questions about the Bible and God, if those are like rocking you and you're scared and you don't want the unraveling to happen, I get it. I get it big time. I get it. We can talk about it. And what this really is just a starter of a conversation. It's a conversation that we're having. We're not afraid to ask the questions. And we're glad you're here seeking out possible answers with us. Because I think the more we hear from you, the more we talk about it, I think maybe the closer we'll get, right? And let me say one last thing. The best part of all of this moving from certainty to curiosity is how it just might make people who don't know that they can trust God yet, how it might make them feel. If we don't come at them defensive and arrogant about what we're certain of, I think that just might open some doors for people who don't know, for people who are curious. We can empathize with them, can't we? And it just might make this whole thing a little bit more attractive. We might get to tell them the really good news that God is love and that nothing can separate us from him. And with that, let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for who you are. Thank you that you have given us so much and that there's nothing you require of us. God, thank you that you're not afraid of our questions. Thank you for being with us in the midst of them. And God, I pray that everybody here would know that really good news, that you are loved, that you love them. And no matter what it is they're facing, what it is they're going through, nothing can separate us from you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, thanks, you guys. That's it. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.